So today is another very special day. I am incredibly excited and honored to be here with Veena Joji of Apexon, the Chief Human Resource Officer. Veena, thank you so much for your time.
It was my pleasure to, Sheryl. Thank you for having me in this podcast.
Of course. Now, we're going to be talking about, I would say, an interesting, timely, and very important topic on strategies to stay relevant,
Sure.
which we were talking about before we, started recording, and that it's relevant for emerging leaders, is relevant for climbing leaders, and then it's certainly relevant too for CXOs and those who are even in the C-level. So, and then there's one more group that you were saying that is very relevant and important for too, and that's allies. And so I love this topic. We're going to have clear takeaways. But before we jump to it, I thought I would ask, was there a person or a situation that inspired you to care so deeply about the people in your organization and to really ascend to be a chief human resource officer?
Sure, I'm happy to share. One early memory that really shaped me was having the privilege to be studying abroad and attending an international school during my formative years. So, my classmates came from all over the world. Every continent was literally represented in the class. And so, appreciating and embracing different cultures came quite naturally to me because inclusion wasn't a concept, it was just the way we lived together and we studied together and we played together. But when I moved back to India and transitioned through multiple schools, I saw and I realized how difficult it is for me to adapt because that sense of belonging wasn't automatic. So that contrast always stayed with me. And then, of course, years later, I started my career in HR and eventually donned many roles. I also got the opportunity to lead diversity, equity, and inclusion. And, all of this came back. I realized that inclusion isn't just nice to have, it actually shapes how people show up, contribute, and grow. So that early exposure taught me the power of people centric leadership. And for me today, it's the foundation of how I build culture and lead transformation.
So I love that so much. So it sounds like it's not really a thing that's nice to have, or it's fair, or it's something that I should do, or it's something that I'm being forced to do. It's really something that you believe in your heart that is also good for business. Like it just makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I love that so much. And so in today's workplace, I'm not sure how it is in India or but of course, in the United States, there's a lot of disruption going on, and it might be similar. So this may be a global question, or you can also, isolate it as well. But it seems more important now than ever to really be relevant. And
Yes.
I think sometimes it's easier for men just because, I mean, making a blanket comment, but because it's just how they were grown up, how they were raised, speak up, talk about what you're doing, and that type of thing. And a lot of times it's more difficult for women to, we say here, like toot your own horn. In other words, talk about what you're working on, talk about your wins, your successes, and take some credit and not just say, oh, it was all my team. I mean, somebody's leading a team, and that. So can you share some strategies on some of the most important ways to stay relevant for emerging leaders, for more established leaders, and then also you were talking about how allies can help with this as well?
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, I lead an organization where I have people across multiple geographies. So, as head of HR, I not just focus on just the diversity side of it. Any initiative that we do is about creating an inclusive culture, and we focus on female leaders, we focus on emerging leaders, and literally every other person who can make a difference in the organization. And we believe strongly that that helps them to stay relevant. So one of the key responsibilities is in making sure our leaders don't just lead today's business, but are ready for tomorrow's. And it's easier said than done, right? How do we go about it? So that starts with creating a learning mindset. So shifting from one-off trainings to continuous learning as a process. So we curate personalized on-demand development tied directly to where the business is going and to the individual needs. So especially in women, they find it difficult to speak up. So how do we focus on that? Or if it is a different segment where they are about creating that executive presence in their communication, how do we focus on that? Be it AI, inclusion, cross-cultural leadership, we focus on all these topics.
Mhm.
Apart from that, we also work very hard to build a growth mindset. So our message to the leaders is relevance comes from learning fast, failing fast, being agile, and of course, putting inclusion and purpose at the center of all of what we are doing. So we have several programs and interventions to help them understand all of this. It's not necessarily one size fits all. So like I said, it's mostly curated to be personalized and on demand. And then you would agree with me today, more than ever, we have pushed our leaders to look beyond their bubble into other industries, to be aware of different markets, to lead different generations. So, external perspectives keep them sharp, keep them connected to the real world. So these are some of the things that I've been focusing on. And then, of course, coaching leaders to lead with humanity. And we have done something very interesting. In today's world, you would agree, empathy, trust, authenticity, all of these are not just soft, they are absolutely essential. So we don't just talk about it, we have incorporated this into our performance measures to ensure that while our business metrics reflect how hard and how bold we were to achieve our success, our values ensure that we are human enough to care. So these are some of the things that we as an organization have done, and I have also focused on to ensure that we stay relevant.
Yeah, so I love that so much. Now, is there a difference as far as staying relevant between an emerging female leader and maybe a leader who is way more established, who's either on the executive leadership team or who's in the C-suite?
So, when it comes to emerging leaders, especially women, some things that we consciously tell them is that be confident about what you bring to the table. You don't need to have it all figured out to lead. So, what you need is the clarity of purpose, the courage to speak up, and your confidence to own that space in the room. The rest will all come together eventually. And of course, to our allies also, we say the same thing. Real leadership is not just about using your influence to open the doors, but to amplify the voices of whom you are representing and challenging biases, which means even their internal biases, which might crop up here and there. But when you ask about leaders who are well established, it would be more about, how do you challenge status quo? How do you focus on growth? How do you build better strategies and so on? So, yes, the needs are different. And like I said, we have to customize it.
Yeah, so I love that so much. Well, let's look at the other side of that. And if what happens if people don't do that in this climate? So what are some of the mistakes that you're seeing in people that are um, maybe doing an amazing job and they have their head down, but at least what I've seen in the coaching world is that it's definitely a myth that your work speaks for itself. I think it's important, obviously, to do good work, but it seems like it's not enough. So for those who you feel maybe aren't staying relevant enough out of no fault of their own, what are some of the mistakes that you're seeing?
Um, You said it rightly. They don't really brand themselves. They kind of, they are so focused and deep rooted in the work that they are doing that they are sometimes not conscious about what's going outside in the world, what's going on outside in the world. So it's all about speaking up. And some of the other things that we have focused on is about those connects with the leaders, deliberate connects and deliberate uh, opportunities for people to meet up and speak up. So these are some of the things that we have done, because when they do that, and when they feel secure that they are not being judged, or they have this opportunity to bring their complete selves to work, they feel that, okay, this is a safe place and I can open up, I can speak up, I can share, I can talk about what I think should be done differently, and such things really help in progressing.
Yeah, so that seems so important. And so as a leader, you talk about a very important topic. And when I talk and coach people through influence, one thing that's very important is that you have to establish trust. And
Yes.
so, and it seems also like trust is very important to establish for teams so they really can feel safe to speak up and be relevant. And so as a leader, then what would be a good way to establish that safety so teams can feel, safe to speak up and share and be as relevant as possible?
As a leader, I think we need to listen more. That's my mantra. Listen more and be vulnerable ourselves, because vulnerability keeps us grounded. It allows us to connect, it allows us to learn, and it also allows us to lead with empathy. And of course, as a leader, you also have to be quite resilient, because no matter what the situation is, you have to kind of, push through those challenges and keep moving forward. So even if people are not speaking up, even they are not opening up, you really need to be patient and wait for those times where you can connect effectively and slowly start building that trust. Trust is not built overnight, but once it's built, it stays long.
Yeah, that is such a great reminder. And I'm wondering if, as far as building that trust, is it more one-on-one or is it in a group with a team, or what do you recommend?
In every action of ours, be it one on one or be with the team. Walk the talk and do what you are promising them. Stay true to your commitment, communicate effectively, and always be true to what you are trying to say and wanting to do.
Yeah, and I always say too that, what we're thinking comes out our mouth. So I think I mean, don't you think it's important to genuinely care, about the relevance of team, what they're doing, what their successes are, what their challenges are, and
Yes.
getting into that mindset first?
Absolutely. And that's why I said, when you are vulnerable and when you're opening to listening, you are understanding what the other person has in terms of challenges, in terms of excitements going on in their lives and in their work. And then you're able to relate more, and then you are able to build that trust and to guide that individual to wherever you would want to take them to.
Yeah, I love that so much. So, as an ally, what is one, and sometimes people loosely understand what it means to be an ally. And so, if someone is an ally thinking about, oh, this is resonating with me, I want to bring out the best in my team, what is, maybe a common, I don't want to say misstep, but a common area where allies might unknowingly fall short, or what is one thing that allies can do to bring out the best in their teams?
What allies usually do, and they do it beautifully, is to understand the segments that they are representing, and they kind of create opportunities for them to share their voices. But for me as an ally, I feel it is beyond that. It's not just to amplify the voices of whom you are representing, but also, talk on their behalf, create opportunities for them. So, like I said earlier, it's not just opening the doors. You have to talk on behalf of them, amplify what they are trying to say, and make sure that they earn that seat on the table. Because sometimes the people whom you are representing are finding it difficult to do that themselves. And that's where you need to step in, identify, and then work towards ensuring that they are successful. I always tell my people, as allies, it's not just about opening doors. You have to make sure they are seated and their voices are heard, and then whatever you wanted them to achieve is also achieved. So true progress and true success comes from that.
Yeah, yeah. So I love that. That really goes a lot deeper into, what allies can do to be really powerful and to help their teams and to help their organizations and ultimately to help their company.
Yes.
So now I would also say, though, it's not all on the ally, I would imagine. So, in other words, if you are an emerging, well, whether you're an emerging leader on executive leadership team, or even a CXO, sometimes it's important to be very explicit and communicate for what you need, especially with allies. So, on the flip side of that allyship, can you share a little bit about being very, the importance of being very proactive? In other words, who you would love to be your ally, and then also what you would really love that ally to help you do.
It depends on the situation, Sheryl. So I can't say one specific ally. If I am challenged in a particular situation, I would identify who would be the best ally to help me navigate that situation. So it could be a business situation, it could be a situation where I'm dealing with handling a difficult conversation and I need guidance. It could be a business strategy which I need modeling on. So depending on what is the challenge I'm facing, I would reach out to the right ally and ask for help. And that's why I mentioned this earlier as well. You really need to be vulnerable. You really need to say when you don't know, and you need to seek help. And as male allies, being a female leader, I would really expect them to come and help me and partner with me to achieve that success.
Yeah, that is really interesting. And so I guess what I'm getting at, not a specific situation, but for the person who is looking to get the help of an ally, to just maybe have the confidence and also the clarity about thinking, this is what I want to do, this is where I need help, this is who I'm going to ask. And then also, if you're going to ask someone and use their time, isn't it important to be very clear about what you need?
Yes, absolutely. But sometimes there are moments when you are not sure about what you need as well. That clarity of thoughts is something that we work on, and with experience it comes, because sometimes when you are stuck in a situation, you are like, oh my God, I don't know what to do, or I don't know how to go. So it depends on having, how good you are in terms of identifying a mentor, and that's where mentors can help.
Mhm.
Coaches can guide you, and I'm sure you would agree with me being a coach yourself.
Mhm. And so, well, that brings up an interesting question. So there's definitely differences between allies, mentors, and coaches. And so can you share a little bit more about your interpretation and when it would be appropriate to seek kind of each one?
That's a difficult question, but let me try and attempt it. Um, A mentor would be somebody who kind of helps you in that particular task, because that person, that individual is good at guiding you in that particular function or that particular role that you are in. But as a coach, it's not probably necessarily limited to just that role. It could be about picking on different things, guiding you in taking on larger responsibilities, or even helping you navigate through a situation. Whereas allies, like I said, are people who would support you, who would open the doors for you, who would amplify your voices, and who would help you find those opportunities or land those opportunities that you have been seeking.
Yeah, that's great. And I appreciate you answering that, because a lot of times it's really helpful to really think and understand
I
about.
hope I got it right, though, because that's my understanding.
Yeah, no, that's good. And then as far as the coaches go, I guess I can, step in with that. Coaches are really paid to push. So it's really taking information from you, what's important, and understanding the right questions and giving you the support and the tools to rise up to that next level of leadership with confidence. And so that's a little bit of the difference there. And so for everyone listening, and for those listening thinking that, okay, it's really important for me to stay relevant, which I imagine would be almost everyone. I don't think anyone listening is thinking that, well, it's not important or it's okay to be irrelevant. And so for those listening, what would be a couple important call to actions or just things to remember if we want to be even more relevant?
Is that a question to
Yeah.
me?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Like I said, never stop learning. Continue to have a learning mindset, continue to have a growth mindset. Be resilient, be vulnerable, and push your way through. Own your conversations, own the space, never shy away from asking for opportunities, and have a lot of belief in yourself and know that you can do it. And in terms of staying relevant, you have to ensure that you're keeping your eyes and ears open, always trying to understand what's happening in the world. And that's why I said building external perspectives becomes very, very critical, because it helps you keep yourself sharp and connected.
Yeah, and what is a way to do that, as far as attending conferences or industry events, or are you referring to internally or externally or both?
Both, I
Yeah.
would say both.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for all of these strategies and useful tips, tools, and on staying relevant. I really do believe, and I agree with you, it's more important now than ever. Congratulations on all of your success up to this point. I look forward to following your journey. And thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you, Sheryl.